Howdy my loves. Today we are going to talk about all of the 5-star reads that I had in 2023. By the intro, you know that it was very few. I was a little disappointed with my reading this year in general. I'm really happy that I really escalated the amount of books I read. I read 77 books, and that is the most books I've read since 2019, especially since I decided to make this channel. But I feel like the quality of the books this year were not that awesome. So majority of the books, according to my Goodreads, were 3 stars, which doesn't mean that they were horrible. It just meant that they were meh. They were a time. Not a good time, not a bad time, a time. And only 4 5-star reads, which I think is crazy. That's so little. First and foremost, I have to shout these 2 books out first because they're a part of the same series, and that is Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. This should not come as a surprise to literally anyone. When I got Iron Flame, I posted a picture about it on my community page, and the fact that these books, I feel like, took the world by storm. I feel like so many people fell in love with Fourth Wing and Iron Flame this year. The Empyrean series, I think, as a whole is going to be a 5-star series for me. As long as Rebecca Yarros doesn't do anything crazy, I think it's going to be a 5-star series for me. The fact that these both came out in the same year, wild. This was in May, this was in November. A quick summary on what Fourth Wing is in case you somehow haven't read it. Fourth Wing is about Violet Sorrengail. She is the daughter of a general who commands dragon riders. So within this society, they are at war, and the dragon riders are the ones who are defending the borders. You can't just become a dragon rider. You have to go to Bascaith War College in order to be placed and chosen by a dragon. Dragons are sentient beings with a government of their own. They have a symbiotic relationship with humans, and if you are chosen by a dragon, you have to first make it through a bunch of trials and obstacles that says that you are worthy of a dragon, and then a dragon has to choose you. If a dragon chooses you, you have to be able to fly on its back and express the powers that it is given to you. A lot of obstacles that Violet has to get through in order to get chosen, and then once she gets chosen, she finds out that maybe her society isn't as put together as she thinks it is. And it's especially conflicting because her mother actually led a defeat against the rebellion army, and the child of the son who led the rebellion is Xaden Rearson, and he is now Violet's wing leader. So him and Violet are enemies to lovers. It is fantastic. I think that my favorite part is I'm so into dragons. Like, the relationship between humans and dragons in this book is such a special one. And the way that they communicate with each other, the powers that are expressed, it's so fast paced, it's so special. And as someone who is such a big fan of How to Train Your Dragon, of course I love this series so much. Amazing romantasy series, and Fourth Wing actually won Best Romantasy of 2023. Of course I voted for it. It was like a landslide. So please, please read this. I don't know when the 3rd book is coming out, but you better believe that when it is announced, I'm definitely going to be pre-ordering it. The next book that I gave 5 stars is also a part of the series, and it is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Now guys, I read the entire Harry Potter series. I will link that video below. I didn't read all of it this year. Half of it I read in 2022. The other half I read this year in the beginning of the year. I feel like it's been forever, but it hasn't. This I remember distinctly. I read this in the summertime. I was sitting by the pool. Did not take me very long to finish it. It took me roughly 10 days to finish this, and it is roughly 760 pages to finish this. I remember I was reading by the pool, like, pages and pages of this. My family was swimming, and I was like, no, I have to read this. I was so utterly obsessed with the series at that point. I feel like the first half of the series went so slowly. Last half just went so quickly. I sped through all of those books, even when they were like hefty. Like, look at this, that's huge. This isn't even the longest one. Order of Phoenix is like 900 pages. It's the longest book I read this year. Probably ever, actually. The reason that I gave this 5 stars, and I didn't give any other book in the series 5 stars, and very surprising to me, I did not like this movie. And so I was not expecting to give the last book in the series 5 stars, but the conclusion as Deathly Hallows to Harry Potter was just so well done. And just to give you a quick summary, if you don't know what Harry Potter is, I feel like it's more known to be like a younger middle school read, but honestly, I wasn't really bored by it. I wasn't like, oh my god, this is so childish. I was very entranced by it, but basically Harry Potter is known as the boy who lived. And as a child, both his parents died. They were killed by an evil wizard named Lord Voldemort, and he survived, and nobody knows why. He was raised as a muggle, so as a normal human, and then one day Hagrid, a wizard, comes to collect him and says, "You're a wizard, Harry," the very famous line. And he is suddenly brought to Hogwarts Wizarding School to be trained as a wizard. And this was the epic conclusion to that 7-book series, 8-part movie though. I was very surprised that I gave this 5 stars. I just wasn't expecting it. And I think that's what made it all more sweet, because it just came out of nowhere. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm obsessed. I felt like everything wrapped up really well. There were so many more nuances that I even perceived in the movie, or maybe there even was. I feel like because I also did a video, which I'll link down below on my other channel, of me binge watching the Harry Potter series, I just felt like I wasn't catching all these little tiny scenes because it was just so close together. But when you read it, you have to catch it. Like when I read, I'm reading for comprehension. I'm not really like tuning out. For some reason, when I'm reading, I'm just way more empathetic. I think it's because like in a movie, you're watching from a third person perspective, but in a book, you were living inside that person's head. And I felt like Harry was such a, not my favorite character, but such a better main character in these books, because you were able to see where he's coming from, what he's thinking, even though it is the third point of view, you're still getting his perspective a little bit more than the movie. So reading the books just made it much more personal to me, and I absolutely loved and devoured this book. So 5 stars. My last 5-star read, so unexpected, Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. I distinctly remember sitting in my room, a party was going on, it was the summertime, and I locked myself in my room because I had to finish this. It took me one day. It was fantastic. Hook, Line, and Sinker is the second book to It Happened One Summer. That book is also great. It was very famously like a very good summer romance, and I loved it. I gave it 4 stars, but this one blew me out of the water. I don't know what it was about it. It was like crack. The first book is about an LA socialite meeting this like fisherman, and it's in the same town, and the main character in book 1 has a sister named Hannah, and Hannah is the main character of book 2. Now Hannah had been living in this town, and she had met Fox Thornton, who is known as this very notorious playboy. He's also a fisherman, no responsibility, very bad reputation, and Hannah is crushing on someone else. But she becomes friends with Fox. They get to know each other about like the movies they like, especially like the music that Hannah loves. She just is obsessed with records, and he understands that. And so because they're friends and they keep communicating with each other, even when she moves out of town, he realizes that she is coming to town to do her work, and he offers to let her stay with him. They end up becoming roommates and becoming best friends. And meanwhile, Fox is realizing that he is falling in love with her. Something about this just did it for me. It was so great. Like, you know that feeling when you're reading and you're just like, this is gonna be 5 stars. And I remember I filmed a reading wrap up in, I wanna say July or August. I said it in the video. I was like, I didn't finish yet, but I just know it's gonna be 5 stars, and it was. I was absolutely hooked. This is such a good spring summer romance. It was so awesome, like especially as just like a very cutesy romance. Like these kind of books sometimes can feel a little bit flat. Look how short it is. Like look how much it accomplished for me in this amount of pages. The epilogue, oh my God, it was so cute. Fox and Hannah were This Is Me Trying coded. Like they were the quintessential Taylor Swift This Is Me Trying. And like you can't convince me that they're not folklore coded. Like this whole book is folklore. And I think Hannah would like that. I definitely think she'd have the vinyl version of Folklore. And so I was just so pleasantly surprised by how amazing this book turned out to be, and it was just a cutesy little summer romance. These turned out to be my 5-star reads for 2023. Although it did not give me as many 5-star reads as I wanted, these were still amazing books. Like no knock to these books, because if anything, that should make these books more enticing to you guys, because they really shine. Out of 77 books, like these were the ones that I were like, yes, this is fantastic. And so I'm just so excited to get into a new year of reading. I set my reading goal for this year for 60 books last year. My goal was 30, and I completely blew it out of the water. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to say 80 because like that's a lot, but I should double it at least from last year because I surpassed my reading goal very quickly. I think I surpassed it like halfway through the year. So 60 books it is this year, but probably gonna read more than that. I really am hoping that because I just did all these epic book hauls, as you guys have seen, I will be smashing 5-star reads left and right. I really, really hope so. If you have any recommendations for specifically your 5-star reads, I'd love to hear it. And if you've read any of these, please let me know so that we can talk about it. I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye.
Look at her style from the street. Look at her style from the ghetto. This I will never make it big.